So I'm sure all of you who are gathered here right now knows what we are here for, and of course this is no other than the guy behind Supernatural, as well as Suicide Squad and Deadpool as well. So once again, let's put our hands together to welcome Mr. Adam Glass at this exclusive event at Kinokuniya Singapore main store. Once again, your hands please. Do we have any questions for Adam before he actually starts talking? Because once he starts, I don't think we can get him to stop.
I will not stop. Good.
Now maybe let me just ask very quickly, how many of you actually are followers of the Supernatural series?
See, I told you. I told her before I came here, I said, I'm telling you right now, the Supernatural fans will crawl out from everywhere and they will be here. Those guys aren't too bad looking, huh, on that show?
Tell us more about those guys that we only see from our TV box.
You know, Jensen and Jared are not only great actors, but also really great human beings. I'm not just saying that because my paycheck and mortgage is paid by them. They really are. I had the pleasure of just being up in Vancouver where we shoot the show and spending some time with them. And they're just really great guys. The crew loves them. They're professionals. They know their job. They've been doing it a long time. They're both dads now. Actually, Jensen's baby's coming. I don't think she's here yet, but I know he's having a little girl soon. And, or boy, actually, to be honest with you, I don't know which he's having, but I know he has a baby on the way. And, you know, just to watch these guys grow up in front of us on our TV and as people and as human beings, it's a real pleasure to work with both of them.
So I see some hands actually of people who have watched the series. Do you have any questions for Adam?
I have a question from, I think most people in Scandinavia. It's, why did you kill off the, you know, like Odin and so on? I mean, these are powerful characters in the world of myth. And
yes.
they just got wasted in a single episode. And our dear friend Sam, why did he actually forget Mjolnir, or?
Yeah, I think that if you watch our show, if you know anything, dead doesn't necessarily mean dead forever. So we have the pleasure of sometimes killing off characters that seem to love you loved, but they might be back. You just never know when. We do have a trickster character who also is a Loki character. And every year there's pitches in the room, man. Everyone loves that character, and I hope to see him come back sometime soon.
And by the way, just great job. And as soon as I heard about this, I mean, everyone just phoned me and said, "Oh, Tilden's doing great." And, I love the comics as well.
Oh, thank you so very much. Thank you.
Any question now?
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering, right, because you know, there's this angel death scene where you show the wings, but then for Balthazar, there's actually no wings scene.
Oh, interesting.
So, what does that mean actually? Because there's a lot of speculations that, like, you know, no wings, no death. But then, like,
no wings, no what?
No death.
No death?
Yeah, because like even like the minor angels, you know, when they die, they get the wings scene, but we never see that for Balthazar.
Well, you know, I gotta be honest with you. I'm gonna have to bring that up in the writers' room. I don't know the answer to that. That's my biggest concern. You guys are gonna ask me questions, and I'll be like, I have no idea. I love that character, and I literally have probably seen every episode that he has been in, and I never noticed that about him. But I will tell you this, outside of the writer who wrote the episode, who I could ask personally, I don't think that we meant anything by it in our overall myth arc. And now that'll go over the Twitter fair, and people will Twitter and be like, "You don't know what you're talking about, Adam Glass." So please forgive me that I don't have the answer for that.
Okay, I'd just like to say that I just really love the show, and thank you so much.
No, thank you, because I've said this earlier. A reporter was asking me questions, and a very kind young man, and I said, we have the best fans in the whole world. We really do, and I mean that. Not only what I get through emails and Facebook and Twitter, but also what we get mail in the office and the people that reach out to us, and the show has resonated with internationally through so many people. And I always say the secret of the show is really the two brothers. It's really at the end of the day a great show and fun, but it's their relationship, it's Sam and Dean's relationship that drives the show, and that's what we love. And I think that's why we're on 8 seasons, going on season 9, and why we hope there's a season 10.
Actually, I have another question.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry.
Another question I can't answer.
About, Castiel's
Yes.
handprint on Dean's shoulder.
Yes.
In the recent seasons, they were actually missing. Is there actually a reason why?
You're saying that why wasn't the print there anymore when he took off his shirt?
Yeah.
Because he magically healed. How about that for an answer? It's hard to do that makeup and have that print every time. Cass has really healed him a bunch of times. So, in one of those healing processes, I think the handprint, the scars are all taken away. But great question, by the way. And one of my most favorite moments in the show, when Castiel pulls him out of hell and appears.
All right. Do you have any other question from anyone in the audience?
There we go.
Maybe.
Besides the usual Impala, does Dean have another favorite car?
I love the Impala, and here's a true story. There's more than one Impala. I know that's an age-old show trick, but there's one that has no engine, and that we do for scenes where they just drive around. And Jim Michaels, who basically is the guy who runs the show on the ground up there, and is our line producer, told me that Jensen, who plays Dean, came to him a few seasons ago and said, "Hey man, we really got to put a real engine in this car, and we've got to really make this thing a real bad, I can't curse, bad muscle car." And so they did, and they put some real money into it and really made a couple of ones that really run nicely. But you have the ones that you're going to destroy, you have the ones that are for certain scenes, so there's all in a few different cars, but one or two that really run nicely. We've made jokes of other cars that Dean has had to drive throughout the show. I think the Apollo is his only one and true love. I know it's mine.
Hi, welcome to Singapore.
Thank you.
I want to say I met Misha. Yeah, way too fast. I really like the episode of Freaks and Geeks.
Oh, thank you.
Adrian Hope was in that episode.
Yes, he's a great actor. I didn't meet him. We shoot the show in Vancouver, and I didn't have a chance to meet him, but I did see his tape, and obviously was one of the people that casted him on the show.
It was good.
He was great. It's a tough role, and he actually did a great job at it.
So thank you for writing Supernatural.
Thank you for watching it and being here. And then once again, I warned these guys. I was like, there's going to be very little comic book fans. There's going to be tons of Supernatural fans. And I'm so happy you guys are here. Seriously. It is awesome.
So that we must say that tomorrow is after all free comic book day, and we have you here today at a pre-free comic book day event. So for those of you, besides being Supernatural fans, would you like to hear Adam actually talk something about his graphic novels actually? Adam?
I was really fortunate that I always grew up reading comic books. I make no secret of my age. I'm 87 years old. No, I'm 44 years old. I've been reading comic books since I was 4 years old. So I've been reading comics for 40 years, as my wife can attest to all the boxes of comics around our house that she wants me to get rid of. But I love comic books. I've always loved comic books. They were my first stories. They were my first novels. They were my first TV shows. And so I always wanted to do them and be involved in them in somehow. And sometimes in life you take indirect roads. So my life became about feature films and about television, and then through that I was able to finally do comic books. And actually my first comic book, which is not up here, was a book called Deadpool Suicide Kings that I did with Mike Benson. And that was really the first book and gave me my break in the business. And I have a big thanks to both Mike Benson and Axel Alonso, who's now the editor of Marvel magazine, editor-in-chief, but at the time was an editor. And then this was my second book, which I really loved doing. I was always a fan of novel and then a movie called Devil in the Blue Dress. And Walter Mosley, right? Is it Walter Mosley? I think he was the writer of those books. But I always loved Harlem and in the 20s and 30s. And I always loved Luke Cage. I grew up, Luke Cage and Iron Fist basically were a team in the 70s. And Luke Cage had this giant fro and wore a tiara and a yellow shirt. And he hung out with Iron Fist, who was the, one of the masters of Kung Fu. And, it's funny, as I say this, because Master of Kung Fu comes to mind too, the influence of Asian martial arts in both comic books and movies had a big influence in me as a kid. Every Sunday was a Kung Fu, basically marathon that was on Channel 11 and Channel 5, I think, as a kid. And I would watch those movies all the time and just loved all that. And sort of early, obviously the early Jackie Chan movies and all the Bruce Lee copiers. And then I loved that in comic books too. So when there was a chance to sort of reimagine Luke Cage as a guy back in the 20s and 30s and doing sort of the classic noir with femme fatales and all that, I just jumped at the chance. Sean Martinborough, who did the art for this, is amazing. And I'm really proud of this book, because to me it's the closest I've come to ever actually doing a novel. And it's not just a graphic novel, but a novel. The story's great, it works great. I love the characters. I named one of the characters after my daughter Josephine here, so it holds a special place in my heart for that reason. So after Luke Cage Noir, I then went on and was asked to do another Deadpool book. And I felt like we had done Deadpool to the best of the ability that we could do him in. And I said, well, what if we did a more, and I don't know how many people here know Deadpool or know the character. He's a great character, a lot of fun. He's a psychotic, which for some reason I keep writing psychotics. But he was a great character, but I wanted to do a more serious book on him. So once again, taking sort of the influence that I had in film, that I loved in film, I took film noir and the stuff I loved about noir, but wanted to do what you would call neo-noir, which is something that happened in the 50s. Robert Mitchum made a lot of great movies then, and it's in color and not so black and white, and using color and shadows versus black and white and shadows, and so we did Deadpool Pope, which I loved, and great artist did the cover's name, Jai Lee, and I really always love the art. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning. When his artwork would show up on my computer, I would just open it up and just be amazed. I'd literally call my wife and kids, oh God, look at this is amazing. And it was always a lot of fun to get this stuff, because I just thought it was just really cool to imagine something and then someone would draw it. I just thought it was like the best thing in the whole world. And so I did a bunch of books for Marvel, and then I started working on Supernatural. And I was actually at Comic-Con, and Dan Didio, who's the editor-in-chief of DC Comics, came up and asked me if I was Adam Glass. I said yes. He said, I'm a big fan of the show. And I want to say this, I wish I created Supernatural. I did not. Somebody earlier said something that sounded like Eric Kripke, who now has a show called Revolution on the air, created the show and was my boss, and a great boss at that. And he was the one who brought me on the show, and then left. As I like to say, he came and then he was gone, but then we were left in the good hands of many other people. But during that time, he came to me and said, we're going to do something special. He didn't tell me what it was, Dan Didio. He just said, we're going to do something special, and we'd love you to do a book for us. And they kept calling me or sending me emails and saying, what about this character? What about that character? I wasn't interested in any of that. And then finally he said to me, well, what comic book would you like to do? And I said, when I was a kid, I really loved John Ostrander's Suicide Squad. And he said, done. And it was literally that simple. And he said, how would you do it? And I sort of told him how I do it. I had an idea how I wanted to do it. And as I was writing the first draft of the first script, they came to me, and only then, literally a week before I was handed in, they told us about the New 52. So I went into it having no idea that this was what they were going to launch and what they were going to do with it, and that we were going to basically reboot comics for a whole new generation. And so we did that, and one of the first things I pitched them was I said I wanted Harley Quinn in the book. And they went, no way, you're not having Harley Quinn. They said, well, Harley Quinn on the Suicide Squad, how could she be on the Suicide Squad? She's in Arkham Asylum, she's a Batman villain. I said, isn't this the New 52? And I was like, what if Harley never went to Arkham Asylum? What if she was sent to another prison? And we started to talk about it, and they eventually saw My Way, and they let Harley Quinn come into the book. And this drawing and sketch of her is done by Jim Lee, who I grew up reading as a kid, who I love, is one of my favorite artists of all time, and is also one of the co-publishers now of DC Comics and a friend of ours, and we love Jim and love his work. And there was a lot of controversy over the new Harley Quinn. A lot of the old fans missed the old Harley Quinn, and I totally understood that. But I wanted our Harley Quinn to be a little more independent. I have a daughter, and I have a mother, and I have a sister, and I wanted to make a character that I felt, as much as I loved, I wanted her to find her independence. I used to say this is Harley's solo album. It was like, what's that Lauryn Hill album? What's that Lauryn Hill album? The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Like, I just wanted this to be a book where she could really grow and change and sort of find herself. And as you can see, she finds herself quite interestingly well here with the Joker's face and a gun pointing to someone's head. So I love Harley. She's a crazy and wild character, but I hope that I helped push her forward and make her a stronger character. And she became the star of this book. This book sold very well. It was a New York Times bestseller, and I will say this all the time, I think we owe a lot of it to Harley Quinn. Harley really, really made this book something special, and I loved writing her, and I wrote her for 20 issues up to this past month, and then the book has now gone over to Alec Kotz, who's a super talented young writer, and I hope Suicide Squad runs for the next 10 years, but this experience and all the books that followed, it was the first time I did a monthly book, and it was a lot of fun. It was also hard work, and I'm glad I had the experience, and I'm glad people are enjoying the books, and they've done so well. Both these first two, both became New York Times bestsellers, so that was a nice gift. It showed my mother that all that college education did not go to waste.
So any questions? That's not an audience, actually.
Yeah, Justice League or Avengers? What's your favorite?
Well, I mean, I think it's hard to I think what's hard about that is now we have the Avenger movie. So it's pushed in the forefront. I see, when I grew up, I read both DC and Marvel. Like, only as I've gotten older has there been this camp, you're either DC or you're either Marvel. When I was growing up reading comics in the 70s and 80s, I read both. So I really liked both those books a lot, and we're fans of both. If you forced me to make a decision, I'd probably have to say Avengers. Sorry, I disappointed you. But I will say this, the thing that I miss now that I loved when I was a kid was Earth 1 and Earth 2. I know they've sort of gone back to it a little bit, but I remember they would have always like the Thanksgiving issue where like the JLA, we're nerding out, him and I now. No one else knows what we're talking about, just you and I. We're right here, just look at me, they're not even here, okay? And they would always do, there were two alternative verses. Here, let me talk to you. And maybe everybody should have a glass of wine while I tell this conversation. And so Superman existed on 2 planets, Batman existed on 2 planets. So as a kid, they would have these books where they would get together, like, and have these adventures once a year. And I love those books. Those books were great. The idea that you could meet your alternative self. And they were a little older, so they were like 20, 30 years older than those guys. So imagine meeting yourself 20, 30 years older and having a conversation with yourself. It just blew my mind, and I used to love those books, and actually I think had a big influence on my writing. So I'm sorry I disappointed you that I picked Avengers, but I think Justice League definitely had a big influence.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And now I have a question for you. You said about an alternative self, right? So who is the alternative self?
Oh, who's my alter self? Yeah. Well, I think there's the romantic version you see yourself as, and then there's probably the reality. So I think deep down inside, I'm everything I'm not. I'm a torn Irish Catholic kid from Hell's Kitchen who dresses up in a costume called Daredevil and lost my love Elektra, who was killed on a rooftop. That's who I think I am. The reality is, I'm probably much more boring than that, and not as ruined. I'm probably more Kid Flash, or like just somebody more happy. I'm probably more Wally West or somebody than that. You're the only one who knows what I'm talking about. He's like, yeah, you're Kid Flash, absolutely, 100%.
Any more questions on Redmi?
Is there any comic character that you've always wanted to write but never had the chance to?
Yeah, I was just talking about it. I told my wife that I am done writing mainstream comics for a little while, and that I was only going to focus on creator-owned and also getting my own TV stuff coming, unless they came to me with Batman or Daredevil. If they came to me with one of those two books, I would find it very hard to turn down, especially Daredevil. Big Daredevil fan, and big Batman fan. Batman had a huge influence on me. Scott Snyder writes the book now. Does an amazing job. Scott's such a good writer. I love what he's doing with Batman right now. And yeah, I mean, if either of those characters came my way, I think it'd be very hard for me to say no.
Thank you.
I just have to say, by the way, thank you for coming. I literally had no idea what to expect. I kept telling them I was going to walk in here, there's going to be like 3 people, and I'm just going to be like geeking out with them. So I really appreciate this. Thank you guys.
Just me, you have no idea too. It's not easy putting an event together on a Friday evening, because these people will usually be out somewhere partying with some people, you know.
Not too late.
So any other questions for Adam actually?
Hi. What is the difference between writing comics and writing a TV show?
You know, there's some things that are very different about it, and then some things that are very similar about it. Like a TV show, you have a certain amount of time to tell your story. So that's what's really similar about it. What's different about it is it's paced a little differently. I look at this book, which I love, but it's very dense, a lot of story. My poor artist, I gave him a lot to draw, you know. And over time, as each book moved on, I learned how to pace the book a little better. Learned to give room for it to breathe. I really feel like comic books are an artist medium. You know, we're not the rock stars. You know, if Jim Lee was here, I mean, forget it. There'd be a line out the door, and they would have to close this place down. Even when I would sign with the artist of my books, they were much busier than me. I mean, people want pictures, they want drawings, and rightfully so. I mean, these guys really are amazing. But I wish I could draw like that. So it's a medium in TV. We have a saying, writer's God in TV. In comic books, artist is God. So you're writing to their medium, and I appreciate being part of that process, very much so, but I'd say that's a big difference. No problem, thank you for coming.
Anyone else?
Hi. If you were to write a new Deadpool story, what will be your idea, and what's your opinion on the Marvel now Thunderbolts and Deadpool?
I heard parts of that, so let's do it again.
You mean the first one or the second one?
First.
The first, okay.
Let's do one at a time.
What would be your idea if you were to write a new Deadpool story?
New Deadpool story, what would be my idea? You know, it's interesting you say that. I was saying this earlier. I love Deadpool. I really loved writing him, but I felt like I did him. I felt like Suicide Kings was as close as I was going to get to writing the perfect story that I could write. And then I did Deadpool Pulp, which was a more serious take on him. So I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really have in my head like a Deadpool story I'm dying to tell. You know, so it's not like it's like I say to you now, there's some things you could say to me and I'd be like, here's my story. That's not one of them. I really have no interest in going back and doing him as much as I adore and love him. I would say this, as I say that, let me say one thing. I had a couple of people that came to me, I had this couple, and one was dressed as Deadpool, one was dressed as Harley Quinn. And they said their belief and their fan fiction was that Deadpool and Harley Quinn got together and had this Harley Quinn. And I said, that's awesome. So if I was to write a Deadpool story, I'd love it to be a DC Marvel crossover. And I would love to do Harley Quinn meets Deadpool. And just do an adventure story with the two of them, because I think they're like the Mickey and Mallory of comic books, and I just think it would be awesome. So that is never going to happen. I pitched it to Dan Didio. He thought I was absolutely insane. And Axel Lanza thought the same thing. But if you were to ask me, I would love to do the two of them together. I'll also go on record and say I'd love to do a Harley Quinn solo book. You know, I would love to do, you know, one day a book about her and deeper into her character and just do a book about Harley. I love Harley and think I think there's an audience out there for her to have her own book, and I hope one day I get a chance to do that. Second question.
What is your opinion on the Marvel now and Deadpool and Thunderbolts?
You know, I gotta be honest with you, I do know about Deadpool and Thunderbolts, but I haven't had a chance to read the books. So I don't have an opinion, but I think if you're telling me Deadpool's on the Thunderbolts, which, if my memory serves me correctly, is the Marvel version of Suicide Squad, I think that's awesome. I think that's where he belongs. I think that'd be a great book for him to be on. So I haven't had a chance to read the stories nor talk to my friends about it. I have like a collection of like 100 books stacked at home that I still have to get to, and that's definitely one of them. But I think he'd be awesome on the Thunderbolts. I love Thunderbolts. I think that they do a lot of things really well and great, and I think it's another book that I really have enjoyed in the past. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any more questions?
It's more of a fun question.
Which question?
Funny question.
Funny question, sure.
If you were to create either a supervillain or a superhero that comes from Singapore, how would you?
I'd call it Island Girl. You know, it's funny, having been here for a week now, first of all, I can't thank Singapore enough, and the citizens of Singapore. You guys have been amazing to both my wife and I, and have really welcomed us in, and everybody's been amazing, from the cab drivers to the people at the hotel to the students that we were here for at NYU Tisch, and they've taken us out and they've shown us around, and everyone's been so awesome. With that said, my wife is much more culturally attuned to things than I am, and has been going around and seeing a lot of things. So I'm going to put her on the spot and say, what is the comic book character you would create? If you were on
You want me to speak, right?
Don't ask me that. They'd be the friendliest superhero ever. How about that for a minute?
Sir?
Yo, it's okay, don't need a mic. Hi.
Hi. Uh-oh.
Hi. First off, good job on getting a cab driver who knew where they were going in this country. Good job. Second of all, you're writing Suicide Squad, which is amazing, and we also rebooted as part of the new 52. I just got here. I don't know if anybody else asked this question. Okay, cool.
I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, cheers.
Awesome.
What are aspects of the characters that you write in Suicide Squad, like big characters like Deadshot, and characters we don't know so well like Yo-Yo? How much freedom do you have to play around with the histories and what these characters are like now? Because Deadshot is big now. I mean,
Yes.
he's an Arrow, he's in
Yes.
Suicide Squad, he's in everything.
Yeah.
So, how much freedom does the company give you to play around with them?
Oh, tough question. You know, I have a microchip in my neck that DC Comics put, so if I don't answer this right, my head's going to explode. Exactly. So when my kids have no father, it's your fault.
Kids have a 50% chance of growing up to be Batman, dude.
Exactly. That is true, by the way. 50% chance. Especially my son, who loves Batman. So at the end of the day, I think you pitch on ideas and say, hey, I want to do this with the character, I want to do that with the character. And I'd say about 50% of the chance you get shot down. And 50% of the chance they'll say, sure, yeah, let's go for it. You know, they gave me a lot of freedom with Harley, like especially. I was able to turn around and do a lot of stuff with Harley, but there were definitely demands that Harley needed to do certain things. So when I went to them, especially Harley, I felt like, and I'm going to get to your Deadshot question in a minute, but I turned around with Harley and I was able to say, hey, let's do this with her and let's open her up. And I did speak about this a little earlier. I really wanted her to have more of an independence. I wanted to get her away from Joker, which angered many fans. And didn't mean she didn't love Joker. Later I put them together. But I also wanted her to find her independence. I wanted to, like any relationship, especially a relationship that's been around for 20-some years, what happens when you go your own way? That doesn't mean they're not going to come back together. Doesn't mean that one day Harley and Joker won't be together again. But for me, it was like, let's examine what she looks like outside of Joker. And then I did something, if you haven't read the books, I had her hook up with Deadshot, and I got my first death threats. No exaggeration. I mean, I literally got emails, Facebook messages, and I kept joking to my wife that if